procrastination is one of the most common problems in modern life. Everyone, at some point, has delayed an important task, sometimes not even starting it, other times starting but never finishing. You might have picked up a book intending to read it, only to leave it halfway through. Or perhaps you began working on a project, then let it gather digital dust in a folder called "to finish one day." Procrastination doesn't just mean laziness. It's a complex behavior deeply tied to how our brain handles motivation, attention, and emotion. At extreme levels, procrastination can damage nearly every aspect of a person's life. It affects relationships, careers, academic performance, and even self-esteem. Chronic procrastinators often develop a harsh self-image, believing they are incapable or undisciplined. But the truth is that procrastination is not about weakness. It's about biology and thought patterns. To truly understand and manage it, we need to look at two key areas: the neurobiology of procrastination and the psychology of how thoughts create or block behaviors. The neurobiology of procrastination. At the core of this issue lies a powerful neurotransmitter called dopamine. You've probably heard of it. It's often associated with pleasure. But dopamine's real function is motivation. It's what pushes you to act, to pursue a goal, and to keep going even when the task gets difficult. Dopamine operates through specialized neural pathways or dopaminergic circuits in the brain. Although these pathways are fewer in number compared to others, such as those using norepinephrine or acetylcholine, they play a critical role in generating and sustaining goal-directed behavior. There are two main ways dopamine is released: phasic and tonic. Phasic dopamine comes in short, powerful bursts. It's what drives impulsive or sudden behaviors, like grabbing junk food when you're on a diet, drinking when you swore you wouldn't, or impulsively checking your phone. Tonic dopamine, on the other hand, is a steady, low-level stream that keeps you focused and consistent. It's like a gentle flow that sustains long-term motivation and attention. People who struggle with procrastination often have disruptions in tonic dopamine activity. They may start a task, but fail to maintain focus long enough to complete it. The motivation leaks away, replaced by distractions that deliver quicker dopamine hits: social media, YouTube, or anything that feels instantly rewarding. A clear example of this can be seen in ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Many people with ADHD procrastinate chronically because their dopamine regulation, especially in the prefrontal cortex, which manages attention and planning, is impaired. Studies show that their tonic dopamine levels are often lower than average, which makes sustaining attention extremely difficult. Interestingly, ADHD medications target this exact pathway, improving dopamine balance and making it easier to stay engaged in tasks. So procrastination isn't simply about willpower. It's about how efficiently your brain manages dopamine. And in today's digital world, we're surrounded by stimuli that constantly hijack that system. Every notification, message, or viral video competes for your limited dopamine supply, pulling your motivation away from long-term goals toward short-term pleasures. How thought patterns shape behavior. Now, beyond the chemistry of the brain, procrastination is also shaped by how we think. In cognitive psychology, behaviors often follow from internal dialogues, automatic thoughts that appear in response to tasks or responsibilities. These thoughts can either trigger action or justify inaction. A common example: I should start that project now. Yeah, but I'll have more energy tomorrow. This small exchange in your mind can snowball into days, even weeks of delay. The task stays on your list, but your brain learns that avoidance brings relief. That relief becomes a mini reward, reinforcing the cycle of procrastination. In other words, procrastination isn't only about avoiding effort, it's about avoiding discomfort. When a task feels boring, overwhelming, or uncertain, the brain interprets it as a potential threat to your emotional state. By avoiding it, you escape that discomfort temporarily, which feels good in the short term, but erodes discipline over time. So, if you want to stop procrastinating, you must recognize the thought-behavior connection. Every time you postpone a task, ask yourself, what thought allowed this delay? You'll often find it's not a lack of knowledge or time. It's a subtle internal excuse disguised as logic. 3 practical steps to break the cycle. Understanding the science is helpful, but change requires action. Here are 3 evidence-based strategies to reduce procrastination. 1. See the value in the task. Motivation grows when you attach meaning to a task. If you're procrastinating, it's likely because you haven't emotionally linked the task to a clear reward. Ask yourself, why does this matter to me? If the answer feels abstract, find a concrete reason, something personal, not external. For example, I need to study for this exam becomes, I want to study because it will give me more freedom in my career. When you shift the focus from obligation to purpose, dopamine begins to work for you instead of against you. 2. Clean your environment of distractions. A messy environment equals a messy mind. Procrastinators often underestimate how much their surroundings influence focus. Every notification, open tab, or conversation nearby divides your attention. Create a focus zone by removing your phone from reach, silencing notifications, and setting clear physical boundaries for work. If you can't control your environment completely, modify it strategically. Listen to neutral background noise. Use apps that block distracting sites, or set timers to enforce work intervals. The goal isn't perfection. It's to reduce friction between you and your task. 3. Start before you feel ready. Waiting for motivation is a trap. Action precedes motivation, not the other way around. Once you begin, even with something small, the brain releases dopamine in response to progress. That chemical reinforcement pushes you to continue. So instead of waiting for the perfect moment, set a micro goal. If you need to write a report, just open the document and type one sentence. If you need to exercise, put on your workout clothes. The momentum you build by starting is far more powerful than any mental preparation. Perfectionism, the hidden partner of procrastination. Many people assume procrastination and perfectionism are opposites, but they often coexist. A perfectionist procrastinates not because they're lazy, but because they fear imperfection. They tell themselves, "It's not the right time," or "I'll start when I can do it properly." These are protective thoughts meant to avoid the discomfort of failure or mediocrity. This kind of thinking creates a cognitive paradox. You delay action to preserve an image of competence, yet that delay prevents progress, ultimately confirming your fear of inadequacy. It's a vicious loop. Perfectionist procrastinators also tend to create rigid mental conditions before acting. For instance, I'll start studying after I reorganize my desk. I'll record that video once I buy a better microphone. I'll go to the gym when I have more free time. These thoughts seem rational, but they're really avoidance disguised as preparation. The truth is that nothing will ever feel perfect. The best way to overcome perfectionism is to embrace imperfection as part of progress. Focus on completion, not flawlessness. The moment you begin despite discomfort, you reclaim control over your behavior. Each small act of imperfect action weakens the perfectionist mindset and strengthens your ability to move forward without fear. The behavioral mindset shift. Behavioral psychology teaches a powerful principle. Control what controls you. If your phone distracts you, move it out of reach. If social media tempts you, block it during work hours. If you work best in quiet, build an environment that protects that quiet. Procrastination thrives in environments filled with friction and temptation. By changing your surroundings, you reduce the number of decisions your brain has to make. Less decision fatigue equals more focus. Over time, this creates a virtuous cycle. You start tasks earlier, finish them faster, and gain confidence from your consistency. That confidence becomes a new source of dopamine, a sustainable one rooted in achievement, not distraction. From chronic procrastinator to consistent performer. For years, I was a serial procrastinator. I delayed projects, overthought small tasks, and lived in cycles of guilt and frustration. But through understanding how my brain works, I built habits that transformed my productivity. I learned to schedule tasks in advance, respect my own calendar as if it were sacred, and break big goals into smaller, measurable steps. Most importantly, I stopped waiting to feel ready. I realized that readiness is a myth. The act of starting is what generates readiness. With time, I developed a system that made procrastination almost impossible. I removed distractions, cultivated routines, and built psychological triggers for focus. The results were surprising. I became more productive, but also felt calmer, as if I had more free time, even though I was doing more. When you eliminate procrastination, life becomes lighter. You stop carrying the mental weight of unfinished business. You begin to trust yourself again. Final thoughts. Procrastination is not a moral failure. It's a behavioral and neurobiological response to discomfort and distraction. Once you understand that your brain is wired to seek instant reward, you can stop blaming yourself and start designing an environment that helps you win. Regulating dopamine, managing thoughts, and embracing imperfection are key steps in that process. You can't eliminate procrastination overnight, but you can weaken its grip every time you choose action over avoidance. The goal isn't to become a machine of productivity. It's to align your motivation with what truly matters. When you learn to start tasks, sustain focus, and finish what you begin, you unlock a new sense of freedom. You gain time, energy, and peace of mind. And perhaps the greatest reward of all is realizing that you never needed more motivation, only a better understanding of yourself.